Hey, hi, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the and today I would be showing you how you can validate and sanitize your data using PHP filters. Guys, there was a time when we used to work with regular expressions like pragmatch in order to validate email or URLs. But understanding and remembering pragmatch was not everyone's cup of tea. That's the reason PHP has came up with a very awesome idea to give an inbuilt PHP filters, and by using those filters you can validate any kind of data. And in order to work with filters you need to have PHP 5 or greater than 5 installed on your server. And in order to check the version of PHP, whether you can enter localhost if you're working on your local computer, or you can go ahead and enter localhost slash php info equals to 1, and it will give you the version of PHP that you are currently working on. And if you see something 5 or greater than that, then there is nothing to worry, you are just ready to go. So guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file inside a folder called filters, and I'm going to name that particular file to index.php. Now guys, what are these filters? What are their names? So the very easy way to get that is to actually print the array which actually contain the name of every single filter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say print r. Okay, that is actually required to get the information inside an array. So here I'm going to say filter, and here I'm going to say list. Okay, and the statement with a semicolon, and probably here I'm gonna say echo pre. Okay guys, so let's take this off, and then this one I just with a semicolon as well. Come back, and from here I'm gonna open this particular folder called filters, and guys, here it shows me the 19 filters that we can use in order to validate any kind of data in PHP. So we're gonna start with the very first one, which says int. By using this particular method we can validate whether a string is an integer or not. So what I'm going to do is here very first I'm going to say function to validate integer. Okay, and guys, here I'm going to say a variable. Let's say this particular variable to be 15. Okay, that's probably an integer, and here I'm going to say if filter var. That means we want to filter a variable. Which particular variable we want to filter? The one we created out here on the top with $var, and which kind of validation we want to validate it with. Here I'm going to say filter validate integer. That's all you require. And here you can say if this particular variable is able to be validated as an integer, then go ahead and echo this is an integer. This is an integer. Okay, here I'll say echo this is not an integer. This is not an integer. Okay, so guys, come back, refresh your page, and here it says this is an integer because we have 15 out here. So what I'm going to say 15, lucky number. Okay, come back, refresh, and here it says this is not an integer, of course, because we are using some letters inside it. And guys, next thing we can do with validate filter validate integer is we can check out whether this particular variable is actually inside any range or not. So what we can do for that is here I can say expression, like which particular expression we want to check against. And guys, every expression inside these filters needs to be an array. So I'm going to say array, and here I'm going to say the very first key would be options, and these options will again would be an array. Here I'm going to say a minimum range to be, let's say, 18. Okay, here needs to be 18, and then I'm going to say the max range will be let's say 120. Okay, so what we are trying to do, let's say we have a website where we have some adult content on our site. So we want only the users which are 18 or more than 18 can access it, otherwise you cannot access it. So what we can do is here it says 15, and out here in last I'm going to say comma dollar expression. That's all you require in order to find whether this particular variable is inside this particular expression range or not. So come back, refresh. Here it says an error because we are, like not ending it with a semicolon. Come back. Here it says this is not an integer. So the best we can do is you need to be over 18. Okay, and here I can say is enjoy buddy. Okay, so come back. Here it says you need to be over 18. So the user is smart. He said, oh really? So let me enter my age as 19, and here it's saying enjoy buddy. Okay guys, so this is the very first function where we can validate integer, or where we can find whether a particular integer is coming inside a particular range or not. Now I'm just gonna comment this out, and I'm gonna start working with the very next method that gonna be a boolean. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say a variable here. Let's say this variable to be a true, and here I'm gonna say if filter var, and again which particular variable we want to filter. They're gonna be the variable we created out here on the top, and the function we're gonna run would be filter validate boolean. Okay, here I'm gonna say echo this is a valid true boolean. Okay, boolean, and here I'm gonna say else this is not a true boolean, or probably a false one. Okay guys, so come back, refresh. Here it says this is a valid true boolean because I'm saying true out here. Let me say 0 out here, and it will say this is not a true boolean, probably a false one. Guys, the boolean is something which is in true, false, 1, 0, yes or no. If you're gonna enter something related to these 6 values, then it's gonna return something, otherwise it would be null. So I'm gonna comment this thing out as well, so that we can go ahead and we can work with our next method. So here I'm gonna say function to validate float values. Okay, function to validate float values. So come back here, I'm going to say $variable would be equals to, let's say 14 or probably 15. Here I'm going to say if filter var $variable, and here I'm going to say validate, filter first validate boolean like this. Okay, and here I'm going to say echo this is true, else I'm going to say this is false. Okay, echo this is false. So come here, now refresh, and here it says this is false. Let me check out why it's doing that. Function validate boolean. Okay, I'm really sorry, I don't have to say boolean here, I have to say float. I'm really sorry guys. Here it says this is true. Now guys, you would be thinking why I'm using float though this particular method looks similar to the integer. Guys, the reason is that let's say I have a value called 15.1. Here if I'm going to refresh, it says this is true, but if I'm going to remove the float with an integer, it's gonna say this is false. Because guys, according to PHP or any other programming language, integers and floats are different. If you want to work with decimals, you will have to use something related to float. You cannot work with decimals and integers together. They are absolutely different. So that is the reason the float is a different method and the integer is a different method. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to comment this one out so that we can go ahead and we can work with something else, and that would be validate a regular expression. So let's say I have a variable called my website name, that's the.h. Okay, and I have a regular expression where I'm just trying to find out whether this particular the.h entire string contains a letter called T or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say expression, and again guys, as I told you, every single expression inside these filters needs to be an array. So I'm going to say array. So the very first key would be options, and those options again would be an array here. Okay, so guys, there would be multi-dimensional arrays. Here we need to work with a predefined key called exp. That's actually stands for regular expression. And here I'm gonna say which kind of expression I want to match for. So here I'm gonna say a backward slash, a caret, and a t. Like t is the actual letter I want to match the string against. Here a period and a star sign and the ending of the regular expression. And guys, here I'm gonna say if filter var dollar variable. Here I'm gonna say filter validate reg exp and the expression variable here. Then I'm gonna say echo this string contains a letter. Here I can say t, okay, and if not, here I'm gonna say echo horrible, no t found it. Okay, so what's up? No t found it. So come back, refresh, and here it says we have some kind of an error. Don't worry guys, we can probably see what our error is. So here it says, okay, it needs to be options, not option. So here it says the string contains a letter T. Now let me write something else, probably awesome, because it cannot contain a T, and here it says horrible. No T found it. Okay guys, so in this way we can actually work with regular expressions in a really easy and a flexible way. And again, I'm gonna comment this out. Okay, so comment. So next thing, we need to work with validate a URL. So guys, if you remember, and if you ever work with a regular expression, then you would be quite sure that validating a URL was like heck. You have to write a lot of expressions, you will have to write a lot of patterns to validate one URL, and it can be done in a really easy and an efficient way just by using one line of code. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say variable. I'm going to say my website, that's http www.untitled.com. okay, and here I'm going to say if filter var, like we want to filter a variable. Which particular variable? The one we created on the top. Filter validate URL. That's all you require. And here says this is a valid URL, and here let's say else echo you better find a new domain. Okay, so come back, refresh, and here it says this is a valid URL. And guys, the best thing about validate URL is it supports HTTP, HTTPS, and FTP as well. So let me go ahead and remove it and enter FTP here, and you will notice the result is still same. So again, I'm gonna comment this out, comment the end of the comment there, and we're gonna work with our very next function that gonna be validate an email. So again guys, the email validation earlier needs to be a preg match, a very lengthy one, but again we can make our same task quite easier. So here I'm gonna say support@untitled.com, and let's find whether this is a validated email or not. So here I'm gonna say filter var variable filter validate email. Okay, simple and quite flexible as well. Okay, here I'm gonna say echo this seems to be a valid email, and here I'm gonna say else echo you need some guidance. Okay, come back, refresh, and here it says this seems to be a valid email. And let's try guys some crap here. I'm gonna say abcd and no.com like this, and let's see, here it says you need some guidance. Okay, no, I don't want. So here I'm gonna comment this out once again, and we're gonna move with our next one, and they're gonna be validate an IP address. Guys, this particular method supports two kind of IP address. The one gonna be the IPv4, and this next one is IPv6. And if you have no idea what these are, then you can go ahead and search them on Google, but otherwise you don't have to worry because it's gonna take care of every single IP address that's available on the net right now. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say variable. Let's say an IP address to 192.168.1.0. Okay. Here I'm gonna say if filter var. Here I'm gonna say the dollar variable, and did you know the name of our validation here gonna be the IP. So here let's say echo you are using a right IP address echo you believe you seems to be a guy of 6 cheese. Okay, so like this, come back, refresh. Here it says you're using a right IP address. And guys, the best thing about this particular function, it do support the validation of the MAC address, because like generally the MAC address or something like this 255.255.255.255. So if I'm going to refresh, and here it says you're using the right IP address. So by using this particular method, you can validate an IP, plus you can validate a MAC address as well. So again, I'm going to comment this out, and this one here. Now we're gonna move with string. Now guys, till now whatever we did was related to validations. Now we can also sanitize our data. Sanitizing a data means actually taking the junk out of the string and only keeping the thing that you required. So the very first one is filter sanitize string. And what that will do is, let me give you an example here. Here I'm gonna say a variable out here on the bottom. And guys, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write some chunk of HTML here. I'm gonna say this is a P. Okay, so probably we have an HTML tag called paragraph here. Then I'm gonna say if probably we don't have to do any check because we are sanitizing the data, we are not validating it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say after sanitization. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say filter the variable we created on the top, and which kind of sanitation we want to work with. So I'm going to say filter sanitize string. Okay, so come back, let me echo this particular variable, the ones after sanitization. Come back, refresh, and guys, you will notice here it says this is a P, and we don't have these P tags out here. So guys, this is something really handy if you want to submit something to their database and you just want to take the junk HTML off. You can probably use it. So that's all with sanitizing a string. Let's see what we have next in our stock. So come back, here it says strip. So guys, strip and sanitize are actually the alias of each other, and there is hardly something different about them. You can try it from your side. I'm not gonna bother much about strip. I'm gonna work with encoded. Guys, encoded are something really awesome, and they can actually they can actually be really handy with URLs. So what I'm gonna do is here I'm gonna say a variable. Okay, let me say this is encoded like this. Here I'm gonna say after sanitization, and here I'm gonna say filter var dollar variable filter sanitize. Here I'm gonna say encoded. Okay guys, so once again, go ahead and echo after sanitization, and guys, you will notice wherever I have a space and it's actually appending a percentage sign or an ampersand sign out there. And guys, if you will notice, you cannot write spaces inside your URLs. So let's say if you want to pass some kind of a value in your URL, you can sanitize that particular value with this particular method, and then you can pass it in your URL. So your URLs would be fully validated and they will never break at any point of time. That's all with sanitization as well. with encoded one. Let's see what we can work next with. Here it says special characters. Guys, special characters and full special characters are again absolutely same. The only difference is about the scope. You can go to php.net, you can read about the scope out there and the difference between a special chars and full special chars, but in real world you will hardly find any difference about them. So I'm going to give you an example about the special characters one. So here I'm going to say a variable, okay, and let me write some PHP out here. Let me say p tags. This is a p, okay. Then let me say after sanitization. Here I'm going to paste it. I'm going to say filter var dollar variable filter sanitize, and I believe it's special chars. Okay, I believe I'm right. So go ahead, echo after sanitization, and now you could be saying, come on man, what's the difference? Here it says p. It's actually similar to the one you created out here in the variable. No guys, it's not. So let me go ahead, right click out here, and I'm gonna click on view page source. And guys, here you can notice what it did for us. It converted these tags into the special characters, and it took, like, actually it took those angle brackets off for us. So now if I'm gonna enter some kind of a comma out here, like if I'm gonna say this, and here I'm gonna say what, okay. And guys, let me do the page source once again, and you will notice, see, that particular comma has also been taken off, probably here, like a special character. So it can be really safe for you. Let's say you want to save some HTML to your database, so you can sanitize that entire string with this sanitize special characters, and your database would be safe and secure. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to close that one as well, and the next one would be the unsafe raw. Guys, the unsafe raw will take any special characters, any unsafe I would say characters out of a string, and will give you a clean and clear data after that. So let's comment this one out once again, and let's work with unsafe raw. Here I'm gonna say a variable like a var, and here I'm gonna say, let's say script tags, okay. And come back here, dude. Here I'm gonna say this is JS tag, okay. So here I'm gonna end it with a semicolon. Here I'm gonna say after, probably copy it from here, sanitization. I'm gonna say filter var. Here I'm gonna say dollar variable filter unsafe raw, okay. RAW, and let me echo after sanitization here, come back, refresh. There is nothing on the screen. The reason behind that is, guys, because according to this filter unsafe raw, script tags are not safe. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, probably I'm gonna put p tags out here, okay. Here say p. If I'm going to refresh here, it says this is a JS tag. So it actually removed the p tags from here, and it will never let us enter any kind of script tags in our strings. So the next thing would be probably sanitize an email. So guys, earlier we validated an email, and right now we're going to sanitize an email. So there is a little difference in both of them. Here I'm going to say email, let's say again the one I created earlier. I'm gonna say support@untitled.com. okay. Now guys, you will notice what I did. I actually enter a blackwood slash here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say dollar after sanitization. Here I'm gonna say filter var dollar variable. Here I'm gonna say filter sanitize email, come back, echo the variable called after sanitization. Here it says support at the titlage.com, and you will notice there is no backward slash out there. So guys, you can very first sanitize the email the user gonna input, then you can validate it, so there would be more chances of doing any kind of mistakes from your end as well as from the user's end. Again, I'm gonna end it here, and next thing would be sanitize a URL. That's quite similar to the email one. Again, if you want to enter something crap inside a URL, it's gonna take that particular thing off, and it's gonna give you a clean URL, and then you can validate that particular URL. And guys, next thing is a number integer. Like if you want to sanitize a number integer, this is something really interesting I found. So here I'm gonna say this is 12. Okay, here I'm gonna say after sanitization. Here I'm gonna say filter var dollar variable filter sanitize sanitize. Then I'm gonna say a number and an integer like this. Here I'm gonna say echo dollar after sanitization, and guys, you will notice I only have 12 here. So what this particular method gonna do is it's gonna take everything off except the numbers. Okay guys, this is something really awesome about sanitizing number integer. Let's say you only want numbers, but but some users have a tendency to explain things a lot even if they're only supposed to enter their age or something. So this can be really handy at that particular point of time. So out here I'm going to comment this out. The next one would be sanitize a number float. So I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it here, and here I'm going to say 12.1. okay guys, and instead of number I'm going to say float. Now I'm going to show you something really awesome here. If I'll refresh, you will notice here it says 121, but again we don't want that. Let's say we are asking for some kind of a decimal digits. A user gonna enter, let's say 1211, and here we're gonna get 1211. That's actually 1211. No, we don't want that. So guys, that's the reason we can pass in the very large argument inside this filter var, and that would gonna be is here I'm gonna say filter allow. Probably that needs to be, I believe, filter flag allow. Let's see if that's correct. Fraction. Okay, so if I'm gonna come back, refresh, we're gonna get the exact value from this particular string. Guys, in the same way you can say filter flag allow thousands, and there are some other methods that you can find on php.net. Again, I'm gonna edit here, and now we are left with magic codes and the very last callback function. So very first, let's say the magic codes one. For that, what I'm gonna do is here I'm gonna say this is some crap. Okay, and probably guys not like this. Let's say this is John's, like this. This is John's playground. Okay, playground here. Sometimes it's really difficult to think for any string, but I finally got one. Here I'm gonna say after sanitization filter var the variable we created out on the top, and filter sanitize magic codes. Okay, so like this. What are you doing? Okay, echo the variable called after sanitization, and guys, you will notice where I have this particular inverted comma, it appended a backward slash in front of this particular string. So guys, that is something considered again safe if you want to put something into your database. Now the only thing that we are left with is a callback function. Guys, the only thing PHP have been missing from a very long time is a callback function. Like in jQuery, we can run callback functions. Once something done, we can run a callback function, but the PHP was missing this particular functionality, and finally we got one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a callback function here. Let's say function what should I do? Let me find something. Okay, function match expression. Okay, I'm not sure whether it's gonna make any sense or not, but I'm just gonna make one really quick. This function actually gonna take a parameter out here. So here I'm gonna say the parameter. Here I'm gonna say if dollar values is greater than equals to 1. Let's say echo. This is something we can work with. Okay, and here else echo. Give us some numbers, man. Give us some numbers, man. Okay, again, a stupid kind of function that does not make any sense. The only thing I'm doing is I just want to show you how you can actually run callback functions. Here I'm going to say a variable, and let's say this is equals to 2. Okay, that's actually greater than 1. Here I'm going to say echo. Probably not echo. Let me say after sanitization first. Let's create a variable, keep it clean. After sanitization, here I'm gonna say filter var the variable, then the callback function that we want to run. So I'm gonna say filter callback, and guys, again, this particular callback function, gonna work with an array. So here I'm gonna say array, and the array will actually take the options. And guys, that particular option actually gonna be the function we created out here on the top. So here I'm gonna say options, and the name of the function we created out here on the top called match expression. So finally say echo, or probably say echo after sanitization, or I'm not sure, we actually don't need to do that. And here it says there is something we can work with, and let's guys make it to -2. Here it says give us a numbers, man. So guys, this is the way you can actually run callback functions. You can work with some real-time examples. You might got an awesome callback function. I know mine is stupid, but guys, this is all about filters. But this is not the end. There is other functions that you can read on php.net, but the one I covered are something really you can use with some real-time examples. And guys, in order to keep getting these awesome things, you can go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, or you can visit my website, that's untitled.com. I'm gonna see you guys next time. Goodbye.